Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I'm Vidhi Bhutra and this is Global Pulse, our daily space to take a look at global media's take on India. The youth protest continued on Friday as CJP delegation met ministers and union cabinet approved stricter punishments in paper leak cases. CJP founder Abhijit Deepke has said the demonstrations will continue until Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan resigns. And now the global media is looking at the bigger picture. What exactly sets this protest apart from the many others that have taken place during Modi's 12-year tenure? The Economist offers perhaps the sharpest critique of the government's handling of the protest. It says that in the social media age, where the rule of thumb is to grab someone's attention within the first 3 seconds, Sonam Wangchuk's hunger strike at Jantar Mantar barely drew any traction online. And between Wangchuk's fast unto death and a fast until Pradhan resigns, The Economist says death was the likelier outcome. It jibes, Mr. Modi has never sacked a minister for incompetence. But then The Economist says the government itself gave the protest the spectacle it needed. On the 21st day of the hunger strike, the government provided the spectacle Mr. Wangchuk had failed to produce, the column notes. Plainclothes police stormed the protest site and carted him off to hospital, supposedly for his own good. They carried white sheets to veil the moment of abduction, the column notes. And that, The Economist says, was enough. Videos of the incident went viral from Instagram to Facebook, Reddit, and X. The Economist writes that the Modi government tried to control the narrative, but the smartphone generation was not to be thwarted. There was another problem for the government, the column argues. There was no particular community it could blame or use to frame the protesters. It says, it is easy enough to frame protesters as Sikh separatists, Muslim terrorists, leftist agitators, or Pakistani infiltrators. But they are not used to seeing their own sons and daughters, Hindu, middle class, educated, treated the same way. The BBC's Sautik Bishwas, meanwhile, asks whether this is simply another student protest or the beginning of something larger. He argues that what sets this movement apart is not necessarily its sheer scale, but the breadth and depth of the grievance. The BBC report compares it with other major protests since Modi became Prime Minister in 2014, including the farmers' protests and the anti-CAA protests. But this one, Biswas writes, is not fundamentally about ideology. Instead, it questions whether the state can still guarantee fairness in the examination system that millions of young Indians see as their principal route to social mobility. The report adds, Rahul Verma, a fellow at the Centre for Policy Research, tells the BBC that the movement points to administrative failure. At its core, he says, it asks whether the BJP is capable of governing. And that is why, Verma argues, many of the protesters are not the BJP's natural opponents. The grievance is about governance rather than ideology, he tells the BBC. So the BJP cannot easily rally its supporters or use the political counter-narratives that helped it confront earlier protest movements. The New York Times, meanwhile, looks at why the Modi government was able to manage public anger over rising fuel prices during the US-Iran war, but was caught off guard by this youth protest. Narendra Modi, the powerful and acutely image-conscious Prime Minister of India, is suddenly facing a political problem he had not anticipated on entering his 13th year in office, Alex Travelli writes for the New York Times. The report says Modi has had his eyes trained on economic anxieties for much of this year as the US-Iran war caused energy shortages in India. But it was another sort of economic pressure that has now caught up with him and helped drive thousands of students to protest in the capital, which he says is the crumbling and sometimes crooked machinery of India's underfunded education system, along with a painful lack of jobs for the millions of graduates it produces. Modi has posted on social media that nothing is more important than the welfare and future of our youth. But the New York Times says protesters have found the response both late and lame. And as the protest continues in the national capital, smaller demonstrations have emerged in Mumbai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad and other cities, all demanding Pradhan's resignation. Veena Venugopal is also writing about the protest in the Financial Times. For 4 straight days, despite Delhi police using batons and tear gas each evening, the protest has only grown stronger, she writes. Writing the India Business Briefing newsletter for the Financial Times, she adds, it is unmistakably a Gen Z affair. The signs are mostly memes, some protesters are dressed as superheroes, and there's an Instagram reel for everything. But Venugopal makes another important observation. Since Monday's police crackdown, the chants have started targeting Modi directly. She writes, as far as I can recall, this is the first time a large cross section of Indians has criticized the Prime Minister by name. Many of the protesting students come from the BJP's core voter base, Hindu middle class households. Some encouraged by their parents to protest, others defying their families to be there. And now, Venugopal says there are only three ways this confrontation can de escalate. The first is for Education Minister to resign. The second is for the police to use brutal force to crush the dissent. And the third is for the government to strike a compromise. But even that could be complicated, she says, because the students are not a unified political entity and have no clear leader who can bring the movement under one banner. That's your Global Pulse for today. Thanks for watching.